the personal and the professional. And in the personal, you know, if they were at a church meeting or they knew each other in a personal manner, then her discussing her religion and talking to him would be appropriate. But in the professional setting, the question is this interaction about him? And the way that was handled, it became more about her and her desire to speak about religion instead of about him and his need for those shoes. He needs those shoes, right? Target. Khaki, red khaki, and hopefully those shoes were black, right? You see a lot of Target associates in black shoes. So hopefully they were black. All right, so we have just a few words, and then we're going to do another scenario. Just a few words. Have you all ever heard the terms transference and countertransference? Okay. So the other part of that situation is when Daphne said, I apologize that we got sidetracked. It's just that you remind me of my older brother. He got in some trouble too, but ever since he's been going to church regularly, his whole life changed. So she, instead of seeing that client as himself, he reminded her of her brother. And we don't know, maybe she was trying to be a big sister to him. And she ended up interacting with him in an inappropriate way. So we have some language. Transference and countertransference. Transference is when the client projects feelings onto the worker. Countertransference is what happened in this situation where the social worker projects those feelings onto the client. So in transference, it's the client saying, oh, this social worker reminds me, or this case manager, or this counselor reminds me of my mom. And, oh, and my mom was mean to me. Ugh, I'm gonna, you know, and I have these mean feelings about this person because she reminds me so much of my mom. Countertransference is that case manager saw that client and said, wow, you really remind me of my brother. You know, and she may have even been thinking, I have really got to help this person and work hard with this person because I really wish somebody would have worked with my brother this way. So instead of identifying that person as his own entity, she started, you know, and she even said, you remind me of my brother. So I wanted to mention transference and countertransference because those are very important things that sometimes we forget about. And sometimes you'll see someone and they do remind you of someone else. And so it goes back to that self-awareness piece where we have to remember, you know, that person reminds me of my brother. And I know, I'm conscious of that. So I have to make sure that I am interacting with that person in a professional and appropriate way and not like my brother. I actually had a client once who actually really physically looked like my brother. He was, I used to work with children, and he really did. And I said, wow, okay. I know he looks like my brother. I had to, every time I would meet with him, I had to go through this process. I know he looks like my brother. I know, you know, I cannot react to him as if he is my brother. So I had to make sure I had that. Okay, so third scenario. Mindy and Maria at the reception desk. So we are going to pretend this is the reception desk, and you all are OAR customers or clients waiting to be seen. And do you want to be Maria? Do you want to be Mindy?
Either one.
Okay, you can be. I'll be Maria. Okay, you can be Mindy. Okay, so Maria is a long-term employee, so she knows everything. Okay, she's been around, she knows everything about the organization. Well, not everything, but you know, she knows a lot. Mindy is the new employee. Okay. Hi, Mindy. I don't think we've met before. My name is Maria. I'm a case manager here.
Oh, it's great to meet you. I think that I've heard others mention your name. In a good way, of course.
Yeah, I really love my job. The clients can be really annoying sometimes. But you just have to work with them, you know?
Are there a lot of people in this waiting area?
Oh, don't worry.
Oh, there are a lot of people in this waiting area.
Don't worry. They know that sometimes they annoy me, but I love them, right, guys? I love you guys, right?
Oh, well, great meeting you.
So, if you ever need to know anything about working with clients, let me know. Hey, by the way, if you get a client named Bob Evans, you better miss your appointment with him. He's a sex offender.
Should we be talking about this here?
Oh, Mindy, don't worry. This is an open office, right? We really, we need to be really open so that people can feel comfortable with us. I tell it like it is, and my clients love it. Don't you guys? You love it, of course. Okay. So, summary of events. What happened?
Everything inappropriate.
So, Maria wants to, what is she trying to do? What is she trying to do? Maria is the employee who's been a long-term employee. Could you see her? She's trying to help.
Trying to welcome her.
Yeah.
Help her.
Yeah, she's trying to help her. She's trying to say, come to me. I have all the information. I want to help you. Don't worry. This is how it is. This is an open office. We can say these things. And so, in Maria's defense, Maria is trying to be supportive, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that she's going about it and her actions that violate lots of things. But confidentiality is definitely one of the things that she's violating. So ways to improve. If we had to redo this, we see Maria and Mindy, and we decide to roll it back. What would we do differently?
That type of conversation would be not in the receptionist area for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Start
In the
with
office.
Exactly.
in the office.
Exactly. Because how would people feel? I mean, maybe like she's saying, "Oh, don't worry about it. You all love it, right?" And people are saying yes, but they're probably just saying that because maybe they don't really feel comfortable. And other people are saying yes, so why don't I say yes too? I don't want to make a big. I don't want to rock the boat. I'm here for services. Maybe if I rock the boat, I'm not going to get any assistance, right? So she's trying to create a fun environment and help help Mindy. But what she's doing is demonstrating poor boundaries and she's violating confidentiality. I mean, she even tells her what their charge is in front of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so water cooler, they usually say water cooler conversations. If you're talking about things that everyone else knows about, or things like, oh, are you going to the staff meeting, versus so and so, let me tell you about their charge, then it's definitely a difference.
Yeah.
And what I usually say is, when we talk about confidentiality, we think about statements, and I always say to ask, who does it belong to? In other words, who has ownership of that information? So that person's charge, okay, is that person's business. And so who does it belong to? It belongs to that person. I mean, there isn't any reason that she needs to share that information. If she's working with that person, she will see it in the files, or she will get that information by interacting with that client. She doesn't need to get it. She doesn't need to get it from the other person. So who does it belong to? Do I have permission to share? So if you're working with someone and they say, hey, if you see anyone anywhere, please tell them this. Okay, I give you permission. Share it. That's one thing. But chances are that person did not say, please tell Mindy that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Is it important to share? So was that important? Did that add anything of value to their interaction? It's not like they said, oh, there's a fire where, okay, the value is people are going to get up and get out of there, right? By saying that, it was just gossip. It was just gossip just to kind of prove that that person knew some information. So there really wasn't any reason for that. And what are the consequences of sharing? So what are the potential consequences? What could potentially happen? So they've shared this information. She shared it in a private, pretty much a private setting. So what could potentially happen to that? Like if that person comes in, what could potentially happen?
People looking at him in a strange way.
Yeah, like maybe they didn't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe now maybe another person has that same offense and they want to go and they want to have a conversation. Well, what was how long did you spend? Where were you? Maybe, and maybe that person didn't want anybody to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the trust factor would be shot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And the thing is, when we think about people are coming in because they need something and they need assistance. People will sometimes give up their rights and their self-determination because they're so fearful of not getting service. Like they won't make a big deal out of you've disclosed some things because they're afraid that they won't get service. And so sometimes people will, they'll just go along. Right, guys? Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they don't really feel comfortable, but they don't feel like they can say, wait a second, you violated my confidentiality. They don't feel like they can say that. So it's always best, if you're thinking about some information, it's always best to think about who does it belong to? Who does it really have an impact on? Do you have permission to share it? Is it important to share? Because you might have permission to share it, but it really isn't important during your conversation. You're talking about a game that was on last night, and it's probably not relevant throwing in that piece of information. So is it important to share? And then what are the consequences? As soon as you let it out, it's out there. So there's some potential consequences. And what are those potential consequences? So it's always good to think through those. Okay. And Sarah, what time? Do you have time?
It's 3:40.
3:40. Okay, great. Usually I'm way over time, and people are like, oh, they're like trying to get a break or doing this number, or stomach's growling, trying to get a break. But in summary, what I want to say is that this is probably a big review refresher for all of you all, because I know you all have been working diligently, but it's always good to hear this information and hear it in different ways, because it is really important when we think about self-awareness, when we think about boundaries, when we think about confidentiality. Those are things that not only are they important for good work with our clients, but they're also important. There's some legal ramifications that can occur if we're violating boundaries. I always tell my students to go to the NASW social work website and look at the social workers who have been reprimanded for ethical violations, because they can see that this is a real thing that does happen, and that people really do engage in behaviors, and then it just reinforces the fact that we really have to attend to boundaries and confidentiality, and also our own self-awareness. And so I want to leave you with two things. First of all, thank you so much for being so attentive and for participating and for putting up with our fabulous acting. And second of all, I want to encourage you to really do some activities to really focus on who you are as a person. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's reading different books, and but whatever you do decide to do, it is important to do it, because it really does help you personally and professionally, because the more you think about your own needs and being grounded and taking care of yourself, then the better you're going to be whenever you work with clients or even in your own lives. So thank you very much for your attention, and thank you so much, Sarah, for inviting us.
Thank you
It's been
for coming.
fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you all have any questions or want to discuss anything, we can definitely